Hello, it is 6 a.m. in Washington. It's 1 p.m. in Athens. I'm Monita Rajpal. You're watching CNN, the world's news leader. This is World One, live from London. Global markets are rallying after Europe's two biggest economies said Greece's future is in the Eurozone. The leaders of France and Germany made the statement following an emergency conference call with the Greek Prime Minister on Wednesday. George Papandreou vowed his government would stick to the harsh austerity measures which were agreed on to secure a bailout. Investors are latching on to the positive news in Asia. The markets were mostly higher, with Japan's Nikkei leading the field. Joins us now here in London to talk a little bit more about the fact that France and Germany are saying to Greece, we're with you, we support you, but get your act together.
Yeah, and you're going to stay in the euro. That's also trying to be some kind of support to the markets as well. But the reality here...
Everyone's worried about it and everyone's talking about it. Nina, thank you very much for that. We want to see what the newspapers around the world are saying about the European debt crisis. Here in the UK, The Independent has the headline, "The solution to this crisis may lie 3 years in the past." It's an opinion piece, and it goes on to say, with Europe's sovereign debt crisis threatening to become a banking crisis, the continent's leaders must look across an ocean to the west and 3 years into the past for lessons on how to react. Well, from Australia, some harsh words in a commentary piece in the Sydney Morning Herald. The headline, "Throw out cheating Greece before the rot cripples rest of the world." It goes on to say Greece needs to be thrown out of the Eurozone. The crisis is coming to a head as it must, but we will all pay. It is merely the most extreme manifestation of a failure of democracy by the European Union. Ouch. And the Wall Street Journal weighs in with this headline, "Leave the euro to the pigs." It goes on to say, it's a guest editorial, and it says a permanent solution to the European debt problem requires a lot less finger pointing and much greater efforts to bring an end to the excessive debt and deficit spending. One issue, many views, and of course you can read all those articles in full at facebook.com/W1CNN. Another story we're following here on W1, Swiss banking giant UBS has lost around $2 billion in unauthorized trading by a single trader. Police in London have confirmed that a 31-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of fraud by abuse of position. Now, Diana Magne joins us now from Berlin with more on this. Diana.
Hi, Monita. Well, $2 billion is, of course, a huge loss, but as a percentage of UBS's market cap, it's not literally going to break the bank. And if you look back at...
...was there from Berlin. To free or not to free? Well, that is the question in Iran. An Omani official was said to be on his way to Tehran on Wednesday to help negotiate the freedom of two Americans convicted of spying. Now, there has been no word since. The Iranian judiciary now says it is only considering a request to set bail for Josh Fatal and Shane Bauer. That contradicts earlier assurances given by President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. The president had said the hikers could be released within days. Mohammed Jamjoon is following that story for us from Oman. He joins us now live from the capital in Muscat. Mohammed, has there been any word yet from the Omani officials of whether or not one of their people is actually there in Tehran?
Monita, we've repeatedly tried to get any information from Omani officials here.
Mohammed, thank you for that. Mohammed Jamjoon there in Muscat. You are watching World One live from London. Coming up, hoping for relief when there's none to be found. Now killed at least 233 people in Pakistan, 7 of those in the last 24 hours, and the floodwaters aren't receding. The lives of 5.5 million people have now been hit by the monsoon rains, which have swamped Sindh province in southeastern Pakistan since August, and 2.7 million of those are children. The deadly torrents have uprooted the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. Roughly half of the 300,000 people who have been forced to live in camps are also children. Well, Pakistan's government and aid agencies say they are doing their best to provide relief from the rising floodwaters. But as Nick Patton-Walsh reports, for many of the victims, any hope they may have is being swept away.
Before the rains came, they had little. Now they've moved onto the roads.
We want to get more now on the weather conditions. Let's bring in CNN's meteorologist Jennifer Delgado at the World Weather Center. And Jen, we heard there from Nick saying that currently the rains have stopped, but give us a little bit more of a long-term forecast on what they can expect.
And that's right, Monita. We said this yesterday, the rain was going to be coming to an end, and it has. Now, overall in the satellite imagery, you can see for yourself down towards the south, it's a lot going on in the weather.
Yeah, a lot indeed. All right, Jen, thank you. You're welcome. You're watching World One live from London. Coming up, they're used to conducting marriage ceremonies. Well, for centuries, the Catholic Church has banned its priests from getting married. The debate about this is nothing new, but now there's a new call for an end to compulsory celibacy among Catholic priests, and this time it comes from within the Church itself. CNN's Richard Green has that story.
One of Ireland's most respected Catholic clerics is making a radical suggestion. Let Catholic priests get married.
Restrictions on sex and marriage are not unique to the Catholic Church, but there are variations in other faiths. Sex outside of marriage is forbidden to Muslims, but celibacy was never part of the religion's original practices. Most of the famous Islamic saints were married. Now, celibacy is not required for clergy in the Anglican Communion. The Church of England abolished it in 1549. Now, in Buddhism, monks and nuns lead lives of total celibacy. Any kind of sexual behavior is forbidden, and celibacy has played little role in Judaism. Marriage and raising children are understood to be holy obligations. Here are some of the stories that we're talking about now here on W1. At $250,000, the new Lamborghini Aventador, I think I said that right, unveiled earlier this year, is probably a little expensive for most people, just a little. And later this month, a new miniature model goes on sale for 12 times the price. It's decorated with gold, platinum, and diamonds, and is named as the most expensive and precious car model by the Guinness Book of Records. Sotheby's will auction the car in either New York or Dubai in December, with bids starting at $4.7 million, and you can't even drive the thing. U.S. reality TV star Michaela Salahi has not been kidnapped as originally suspected. Instead, she's hit the road with guitarist Neil Schon from the rock group Journey. The Real Housewives of D.C. personality had been reported as missing, possibly kidnapped by her husband Tariq, but a spokesman for Scon's management company says Michaela was with a good friend and was where she wanted to be. The Salahis first hit the headlines when they were photographed at a White House party with President Obama in 2009, despite not being on the official guest list. Well, from high-tech to eye-to-eye, it's the cutting-edge technology that works in the blink of an eye, and you'll be seeing more and more of it over the next decade. Eye tracking is already being used to help people immobilized by disease surf the web and chat online, but it's only a matter of time before anyone with a laptop will be able to flip through folders, scan maps, or pick music without lifting a finger. Good news for incredibly lazy people everywhere. You're watching World One live from London. UBS has lost around $2 billion in unauthorized trading by a single trader. Police in London have confirmed that a 31-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of fraud by abusive position. Now, they wouldn't say whether the arrest was linked to the UBS case. The discovery could be one of the biggest bank losses from unauthorized trading. In 2008, rogue trader Jerome Kerviel lost French bank Société Générale almost 5 billion euros. That's worth more than $6 billion today. Jim Bitterman joins us now from Paris with more on that. Jim.
Monita, that Kerviel case was right in everyone's mind today when we heard the news about UBS. Basically, that case, the Kerviel case, Kerviel was convicted of rogue trading, and while no one knows exact details in the UBS case, sentenced to 5 years with 2 of that suspended, and he also has to repay the 4.9 billion euros in losses, something that may take more than a lifetime to do. Monita?
Yeah, we're just showing their images, Jim, of some of the past cases of rogue traders there. We saw Nick Leeson and now Jerome Kerviel. There had been some talk now that the fact that with UBS right now, we don't know for a fact whether this was at the hands of a rogue trader. We only know that it was an unauthorized trade at the hands of a trader. Understandably, Société Générale has survived that $7 billion loss. But in terms of the reputation, that is the question now when it comes to UBS. But what about the reputation for Société Générale when we look at a year now after the conviction of Kerviel?
Well, there's no question it was damaging to Societe Generale's reputation.
Thank you so much for that, Jim Bitterman there in Paris. Well, many of the world's markets are rising after two of Europe's biggest economies backed Greece to stay in the Eurozone. The French President Nicolas Sarkozy had with the Greek Prime Minister and Angela Merkel, Germany's Angela Merkel. He accompanied the British Prime Minister David Cameron on a surprise visit to Libya. He's there today. They are the first foreign leaders to visit the country since the downfall of the Gaddafi regime. Is a remote city in the center of the country, in the far depths of the Libyan desert, and it's shaping up to be the site of one of the next big battles. A fleet of 500 vehicles driven by anti-Gaddafi forces is on its way there, armed with machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades. Sporting rivals met in New Zealand, but it was the first time the two countries met at a Rugby World Cup. Don Riddell has the details. What's that all about?
Well, indeed, very exciting match. Monita, thanks very much. The USA are celebrating a very hard-fought win against Russia today. Welcome
back. You're watching World One live from London. We are approaching almost 10 minutes to go to 7 a.m. in New York, 1 p.m. in Berlin, and 8 p.m. in Tokyo. British lawmakers are trying to learn lessons from the recent UK riots by looking into the role played by social networking sites. In the next few minutes, a parliamentary committee is due to quiz representatives from Facebook, Twitter and BlackBerry to assess the ways rioters used networking sites to spread trouble. Well, CNN's Erin McLaughlin is covering the story. She joins us now here in the studio with more on that. So why would they bring in these representatives?
Well, this particular inquiry, as you mentioned, Monita, was formed to learn lessons as to what was behind and why.
Is there a sense that there could potentially be calls to restrict social media? Because that would have a huge impact on a society that really values freedom of speech, no?
Well, social media is an incredibly contentious issue when dealing with violence here in the UK. They've jailed...
Erin, thank you very much for that. Erin McLaughlin here in London. Well, NASA is ushering in a new era in space exploration. The U.S. Space Agency unveiled plans for an extremely powerful deep space rocket that will carry astronauts further than anyone has ever traveled before, even to Mars. John Zarella has the details. And I'm Monita Rajpal in London. Thank you for joining us. We'll update you of the news headlines at the top of the hour. You're watching CNN, the world's news leader.